Hey everyone, welcome to the online program of Amrita IAS Academy. My name is Sivi Joy, and as part of our monthly current affair MCQ series, this is part 5B of July 2020. So without any delay, we'll go into the question. Question number 13. The St. Petersburg Declaration, sometimes seen in news, is associated with which of the following? A. Limiting the spread of nuclear weapons. B. Double the global tiger population by 2022. C. Effort to coordinate banking regulations across the globe. D. Protect human health and the environment against the adverse effects of hazardous wastes. So, the St. Petersburg Declaration was actually present in the news recently with regards to certain the tiger population, and this has been something which India has been very prominent in. So, this was there in the news currently, and since it's an ABC type of question, it's a bit hard to even make a jump since there is no relation with this. So, in such type of questions, it is better that we are very well aware about the major declarations and what their guiding principle was. So the St. Petersburg Declaration is mainly aimed towards doubling the global tiger population by 2022. So I don't have much other logic we can use to just get an answer towards this, but it was there in the news, so I hope you all have read it. But even if you haven't read it, let's look at the explanation. We'll go for the answer through that. The answer is B. In 2010, the governments of 13 tiger home range countries came together to double the global tiger population by 2022 through the St. Petersburg Declaration. The countries agreed to a global tiger recovery program. So please understand, the St. Petersburg Declaration is signed between 13 tiger home range countries which have the objective of doubling the global tiger population by 2022. So that is the idea. I hope all of you have understood this explanation. We are going for the next question. Consider the following statements about the new education policy 2020. Number 1. It aims for universalization of education from preschool to secondary school level with 100% gross enrollment ratio in school education by 2030. 2. Higher Education Commission of India will be set up as a single umbrella body for the entire higher education, including medical and legal education. 3. It is based on the Dr. K. Kasturirangan Committee recommendations. 4. The Centre will set up a gender inclusion fund to build the country's capacity to provide equitable quality education to all girls and transgender students. Select the correct answer using the given below code. Option A 1, 2 and 3 only, option B 1 and 2 only, option C 1, 3 and 4 only, and option D 3 and 4 only. So the new education policy of 2020 is something which is very important. It's very important for your prelims. It's also very important for your mains, because this has been recently published by the government and it is a landmark change on the education reform sector. So taking all this into account, it is very important that a candidate or an aspirant who is preparing must know about the major policy formulations or the policy principles which are mentioned in the new education policy. So one thing to be noted in that is the second statement, that the Higher Education Commission of India will be set up as a single umbrella body for entire higher education, but it will not include the medical and the legal education. That is not included under the Higher Education Commission of India. That was a specific thing being mentioned. So taking that into account, I can say the second statement is wrong. So if you have read through the education policy, you know this. Even if you have not read it, please understand that the Higher Education Commission of India will not have the medical and legal education under this single umbrella body. So taking that into account, let's remove the second statement. You remove the second statement, you are left with two options C and D, that is 1, 3 and 4 and 3 and 4 only. So automatically statements 3 and 4 become correct. Let's look at option 1. 1. It aims for universalization of education from preschool to secondary level with 100% gross enrollment ratio in the school education by 2030. Yes, that is the main objective of the higher education new education policy 2020. So taking that into account, whenever you learn about it, this is the first statement that just jumps to mind when the new education policy is just talked about. Taking this, I would say that the first statement is also right. I would go with the answer option C 1, 3 and 4 only. Let's look at the explanation. The answer is C. Statement 1 is correct because the new policy aims for universalization of education from preschool to secondary level with 100% GER in, that is gross enrollment ratio, in school education by 2030. Adult education, the policy aims to achieve 100% youth and adult literacy. The second statement is not correct because the HECI will be set up as a single overarching umbrella body for the entire higher education, excluding medical and legal education. It will have 4 independent verticals: the National Higher Education Regulatory Council for regulation, General Education Council for standards, Higher Education Grants Council for funding, and a National Accreditation Council for accreditation. So that is the second statement. For the third statement, in June 2017, a committee for the draft national education policy was constituted under the chairmanship of eminent scientist Padma Bhushan Dr. K. Kasturi Rangan, which submitted the Draft National Education Policy of 2019 to the Honorable Human Resource Development Minister on 31st of May 2019. The Draft National Education Policy of 2019 was uploaded on the MHRD's website and at the MyGov Innovate portal, eliciting views, suggestions, comments of stakeholders including the public. So that is for the third statement. Fourth statement, under this policy, the center will also set up a gender inclusion fund. Please remember that it's a gender inclusion fund to build the country's capacity to provide equitable quality education to all girls and transgender students too. So understand that there is a gender inclusion fund which aims to provide equitable quality education to all girls and transgender students. So that is the explanation for this question. Let's go for the next question. Consider the following statements about the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, or the IPBES. Number 1, it is a United Nations specialized agency. 2, India as its founding member. 3, it publishes the Global Assessment Report on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services report. Which of the above mentioned statements are correct? Option A, 1 and 2 only, option B, 2 and 3 only, option C, 1 and 3 only, and option D, all of the above. So looking at this question, earlier we had many questions which are talking about the United Nations. So honestly, we will be learning about the United Nations while preparing for your international relations part of your civil services preparation. So while learning about that, you will know which are the major agencies of the United Nations and which are the major specialized agencies of the United Nations too. So when you learn about that, you will know that the IPBES does not come under the specialized agencies of the United Nations. So taking that into account, I can say the first statement is wrong. Remove the first statement, you are left with just option B, 2 and 3 only. That is, India is a founding member and it publishes the Global Assessment Report on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services report. Both of the statements do not seem to have anything illogical in them. So taking that into account, I could say that option B seems to be the right answer. Let's look at the explanation. The answer is B. Statement 1 is not correct because IPBES is an independent intergovernmental body with the seat of the Secretariat is located in Bonn, Germany. The second statement is correct because all states members of the UN are eligible for IPBES membership, and at present over 130 governments are its member states, where India is a founding member. And the third statement, the Global Assessment Report on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, is a report by the United Nations Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services on the global state of biodiversity. So that is the explanation for this question. I hope you will go for the next question. Consider the following statements about aerial seeding. Statement 1, it is a kind of a weather modification technology to create artificial rainfall. 2, it can quickly and effectively reduce erosion hazards. 3, it is advantageous in areas that are inaccessible, have steep slopes and are fragmented or disconnected with no forest routes. So which of the above mentioned statements are correct? Option A, 1 and 2 only, option B, 1 only, option C, 2 and 3 only, and option D, 3 only. So aerial seeding. The first statement it talks about, it is a kind of weather modification technology to create artificial rainfall. That is cloud seeding. So aerial seeding, while very similar, it is not cloud seeding. Cloud seeding is what we are talking about. It's a weather modification technology to create artificial rainfall, whereas aerial seeding is a type of sowing seeds or planting seeds by using an aircraft or an aeroplane, where the seeds are spread over a large area from an aerial point of view. So that is the idea behind aerial seeding. So the first statement is wrong. Remove the first statement. You are left with just two options, option C 2 and 3 only, and option D 3 only. The third statement becomes right. Let's look at the second statement. It can quickly and effectively reduce erosion hazards. Yes, it is quite possible because an aerial seeding would result in large number of seeds being distributed over a large area, and since these plants can grow up quickly compared to the time taken for a human to spread the seeds, this will result in a better growth of forest or better growth of trees and plants, which would prevent the erosion movements or reduce the erosion hazards. So taking that into account, I can say that both the statements seem to be right. I would go with the option C 2 and 3 only. Let's look at the explanation. The answer is C. Statement 1 is not correct because aerial seeding is a technique of sowing seeds by spraying them through aerial mechanical means such as a drone, plane or a helicopter, whereas cloud seeding is a kind of weather modification technology to create artificial rainfall. It works only when there is enough pre-existing clouds in the atmosphere. The second statement is correct because aerial seeding quickly and effectively reduce erosion hazards and suppress growth of invasive plant species. Aerial seeding is an alternative to other seeding methods where terrain is extremely rocky or at high elevations or otherwise inaccessible. For the third statement, areas that are inaccessible, have steep slopes, are fragmented or disconnected with no forest routes, making conventional plantation difficult, can be targeted with aerial seeding. Aerial seeding is a technique of plantation wherein seed balls, that is seeds covered with a mixture of clay, compost, char and other components, thus eliminating the need for plowing and digging holes in the soil, because the seeds do not need to be planted, because they are already surrounded by these clay, compost and char, which have enough soil, nutrients and microorganisms for their growth. So, that is the idea. They are distributed through aerial seeding method. So, that is the explanation for this question. Let us go for the next question. Question number 17. In context of the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, that is ITER, consider the following statements. 1. It is a magnetic fission energy project to produce large scale and carbon free source of energy. 2. India is a partner of ITER. Choose the correct code. Option A 1 only, option B 2 only, option C both 1 and 2 and option D neither 1 nor 2. So, while talking about the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, one thing we need to understand is thermonuclear means it's a nuclear reaction which is occurring at very high temperatures, because the word thermal is there in it. So, for those who are not with a science background may find it a bit difficult to understand this concept, but nuclear reaction which occurs at high temperatures, only at very high temperatures, are known as thermonuclear reactions, and these reactions are not fission reactions, they are fusion reaction. So, taking that into account, I can say that it is not a, if it is a magnetic fission energy project means that is wrong. It could be a magnetic fusion energy project. So, taking that logic into account, I would say that the statement 1 is wrong. So, if 1 is wrong, option A, option C is eliminated. We are left with 2 options, that is option B 2 only and option D neither 1 nor 2. So, we managed to make a 50-50 elimination. But while learning about this, you will understand that India is a partner of ITER. It became recently a partner of ITER, and this was there in the news too. So, obviously, we will be going for option B 2 only. We will look at the explanation and I will try to give, we will see whether you guys can understand this, or if there is any clarification, we will try to solve it. The answer is B. Statement 1 is not correct because the ITER is an international nuclear fusion research and engineering mega project, which will be the world's largest magnetic confinement plasma physics experiment. It is an experimental nuclear fusion reactor that is being built next to the Carrache facility in Saint-Paul-le-Durance in Provence, southern France. It is a magnetic fusion energy project to produce large scale and carbon free source of energy based on the same principle that powers our sun and stars. So, generally what happens in the nuclear bombs or this nuclear energy is usually fission reaction takes place. Fission reaction is when a larger molecule, larger atom like the uranium atom or the thorium atom is just broken down and the energy release is calculated. So, that energy is used. So, that is what we say as fission. It is breaking up of a larger atom into smaller ones. Whereas fusion is when two smaller atoms are fused together and to provide the energy output. But for the two small atoms to fuse together, there needs to be extremely high temperatures. So, that is the idea of fusion. Now, unlike the fission can occur at even normal temperatures, but the fusion can occur only at very high temperatures, and fusion reactions actually occur only in the sun and the stars. So, the idea behind the fusion reaction and this research is to create a magnetic fusion energy project, so that it can produce large scale carbon free source of energy, which is similar to the reactions happening naturally inside the sun and the stars. So, that is the idea behind this. I hope you all understood the statement 1. The statement 2, India became a full 7th partner of ITER in December 2005. ITER India, Institute for Plasma Research, IPR, located in Gandhinagar, Western India, is the Indian domestic agency to design, build and deliver the Indian contribution to ITER. The ITER members China, the European Union, India, Japan, Korea, Russia and the US are now engaged in a 35-year collaboration to build and operate the ITER experimental device, and together bring fusion to the point where a demonstration fusion reactor can be designed. So, that is the idea behind the ITER experiment and India's elevation as a partner to it. So, with this we will go for the next question. What is AGO NEO, sometimes seen in news? A. Software to register neonatal birth and death rate. B. Device for non-invasive screening of bilirubin level in newborns. C. Medical technique for treatment of lung disease or respiratory disorders among children. D. Neonatal intensive care unit to care for premature and sick newborn babies. So, taking this into account, it is an ABC type of question. The word has neo in it. Neo means new or just something new. So, looking at that, the word neo is present in 2 options, that is option A and option D, and the word new is present in the option B too. So, we can maybe eliminate option C. and all of them are related to something health related. So it's a bit hard for us to make a qualitative judgment to reach an answer which is compatible for all of us to choose. So I'd like to, in this cases, please read your current affairs properly, look at the explanations, try to find the major points, and even if you are not aware of it, take this as an opportunity to learn about this kind of questions, learn about certain new inventions or diseases which have come about. So in this case, the answer is option B. It's a device for non-invasive screening of bilirubin level in newborns. We'll look at the explanation. The answer is B. SN Bose National Center for Basic Sciences, that is SNBN-CBS, Kolkata, is an autonomous research institute under the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, which has developed a device called the AGO-NEO, which is based on non-contact and non-invasive spectrometry based techniques for measurement of neonatal bilirubin level as an alternative of total serum bilirubin test, TSB test, without limitations of other available bilirubin meters. So this newly developed device known as the AGO-NEO is reliable in measuring bilirubin levels in preterm and term neonates irrespective of gestational or postnatal age, sex, risk factors, feeding behavior or skin color. So that is the reason this one is being preferred mostly. And this device is found to deliver an almost instantaneous report of within 10 seconds to a doctor who is sitting 10,000 km away from the point of care. This is a significant achievement compared to the conventional blood test which takes nearly 4 hours to generate a report. And it has to be noted that detection of neonatal blood bilirubin faster is extremely important for managing the child to avoid kernicterus leading to new neuropsychiatric problems in neonatal subjects. So please understand the level of bilirubin plays a huge importance in the health and development of a neonatal child, and the faster detection of it helps in curing them or giving them the proper therapy or management of any disease which the child may have. AGO-NEO also shows several advantages compared to other similar imported devices in the market. So that is the explanation for AGO-NEO. It is not necessary that you must know all the points, but just know what it is and what is its function. With this, we will go for the next question. Consider the following statements about the AIM iCrest. 1. It is a joint initiative of NITI Aayog and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. 2. It aims to enable holistic progress in the incubator ecosystem across the country. 3. Under this program, Rs 100 crore financial aid will be provided to selected startup entrepreneurs. Select the correct answer using the given below code. Option A 1 and 2 only, option B 1 only, option C 2 and 3 only, and option D 3 only. So talking about the AIM iCrest program, it is actually a joint initiative of NITI Aayog and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So the first statement is correct. This is something you will learn as part of your current affairs, and knowing that the first statement is correct, you are just left with two options, option A 1 and 2 only and option B 1 only. So automatically statements C, option C and D get eliminated because the statement 1 is not present. Let's look at the second option. It aims to enable holistic progress in the incubator ecosystem across the country. Yes, that is true. The idea behind AIM iCrest is to enable holistic progress in the incubator ecosystem across the country. So whenever we are learning about a new fact or new object, try to understand the major objective, because that alone will give you what is the idea behind this. And just by knowing that, we can identify the better answers or better statements which are suitable for the answer, and thus we can ensure that our score is always correct, our marking is always correct, and we can clear the prelims easily. So in this case, I would go with the option A 1 and 2 only. Let's look at the explanation. The answer is A. Statement 1 is correct because NITI Aayog's Atal Innovation Mission AIM has joined hands with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Wadhwani Foundation to launch the AIM iCrest that can lend credible support and expertise in the entrepreneurship and innovation space. The second statement is correct because it aims to encourage and enable holistic progress in the incubator ecosystem across the country. NITI Aayog's Atal Innovation Mission has launched the AIM iCrest, which is an incubator capabilities enhancement program for a robust ecosystem focusing on creating high performing startups, and it's the first of its kind initiative for advancing innovation at a high scale in India. For the third statement, it aims at going beyond incubator capacity and building. Given the current pandemic crisis, it will focus on supporting startup in knowledge creation and dissemination as well as in developing robust and active networks. But however, there is no such provision for providing financial aid in this program right now. So that is the explanation for the AIM iCrest question. Let's go for the next question. Consider the following statements about the Legislative Council. 1. As per the Indian Constitution, State Legislative Assembly is empowered to create or abolish the council in a state. 2. The size of the State Legislative Council cannot be less than 40 members. 3. Presently, 8 out of 28 states have a State Legislative Council. So taking this into account, I can say, as per the Indian Constitution, you will be learning about what is a Legislative Assembly, what is a Legislative Council, what is a Parliament, what is each and every political organ that is present in our country. We will be learning about them in detail as part of our polity syllabus for both civil services prelims and mains program in our academy. So taking this into account, I can say that when you learn about this, you will know that the state legislative assembly is not empowered to create or abolish the council, but rather it is the parliament which is empowered to create or abolish the legislative council in a state. So the first statement is wrong. Taking that, we can eliminate option A and C. We are left with just two options, option B 2 only or option D 3 only. So either 2 or 3 is right. That is the only option available. Looking at the second statement, the size of the legislative council cannot be less than 40 members. That is true. You will be again learning about it. And the third statement, presently 8 out of 28 states have a state legislative council. That is wrong. It is not presently 8 which have state legislative council, but rather 6 states have it presently. So we will be looking at which are the states and the detailed explanation right now. So we will say the answer is option B 2 only. Let us look at the explanation. Statement 1 is not correct because under article 169 of the Indian Constitution, the parliament may create or abolish the council in a state if the legislative assembly of the states passes a resolution to that effect by a special majority. So once the state legislative assembly passes such a resolution by a special majority, then the parliament is empowered to create such a council or abolish such a council. The second statement is also correct because the size of the state legislative council cannot be more than 1/3 of the membership of the state legislative assembly, but however its size cannot be less than 40 members. And the third statement is not correct because as of November 2019, after the bifurcation of Jammu and Kashmir, 6 out of 28 states have a state legislative council, and the latest one to have it is Telangana. So which are the states with this bicameral legislatures? Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Telangana and Uttar Pradesh, and these states have a bicameral legislature, that is both an assembly and a council. So that is the explanation for this question. We will go for the next question. Consider the following statements about the Central Consumer Protection Authority. 1. It is established to replace the existing regulatory body, that is the Central Consumer Protection Council. 2. It is empowered to order recall of unsafe goods or services and impose penalties on publishers of misleading advertisements. 3. It can file complaints of violation of consumer rights before the district, state and the National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission. Which of the above mentioned statements are correct? Option A 1 only, option B 2 and 3 only, option C 3 only and option D 1, 2 and 3 only. So looking at this question, I can say that the first statement is absolutely wrong because it was not established to replace the existing body, which is the Central Consumer Protection Council. The Central Consumer Protection Council was also created along with this authority. It was also created along with this authority and hence it was not created to replace this. So the first statement is wrong. Remove the first statement, you are left with just two options, option B 2 and 3 only and option C 3 only. Automatically the third statement becomes correct. Let us look at the second statement. It is empowered to order recall of unsafe goods or services and impose penalties on publishers of misleading advertisements. Yes, the Central Consumer Protection Authority is empowered to order recall of unsafe goods and impose penalties on publishers of misleading advertisements. So taking this into account, I can say the second statement is right and the third statement is also right since it's there in both the options. So I'd go with the option B 2 and 3 only. Let's look at the explanation. The answer is B. Statement 1 is not correct because the Consumer Protection Act of 2019 specifies the qualification, selection process, terms and conditions of service of the members of the Central Consumer Protection Authority CCPA and the Central Consumer Protection Council and the 3 tiers of consumer courts at the district, state and the national level. The CCPA is created under the CPA 2019 and it will not replace the Central Consumer Protection Council, whereas the Central Consumer Protection Council will keep serving its purpose of advising, promotion and protection of consumer rights. Understand the CCPA is not supposed to replace the Central Consumer Protection Council. Second statement, the objective of the CCPA is to promote, protect and enforce the rights of consumers as a class. It will be empowered to conduct investigations into violation of consumer rights and institute complaints, prosecution, order recall of unsafe goods and services, order discontinuation of unfair trade practices and misleading advertisements, impose penalties on manufacturers, endorsers, publishers of misleading advertisements. So that is the explanation for the second statement. Third statement, the CCPA can file complaints of violation of consumer rights or unfair trade practices before the District Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission, also the state level body and the national level body too. The CCPA is also empowered to do that. So that is the explanation for this question in regard with CCPA. Hope you have all understood it. It's a rather straightforward question. Let's go for the next question. In context of the smog tower, consider the following statements. 1. It is a cannon-like dust suppression mission that can reduce pollution levels. 2. It is more effective in treating the particulate matter, that is PM 2.5 and PM 10 pollutants present in air. Choose the correct code. Option A 1 only, option B 2 only, option C both 1 and 2, and option D neither 1 nor 2. So the smog tower, like the name suggests, it's a tower-like structure, whereas the first statement says it is a cannon-like dust suppression machine. So cannon-like is meaning it's more like a gun or like a huge cannon, which does not match with the context of the question given, which is about a smog tower. So where it is quite possible that it could be some other device. So taking that into account, I'd say that the first statement is wrong. The second statement is more effective in treating the particulate matter, that is PM 2.5 and PM 10 pollutants. Yes, it is quite effective in that, I hope. So taking that, I would say that the second statement is right and the first statement does not seem to be completely right. So I'd go with option B 2 only. Let's look at the explanation. The answer is B. Statement 1 is not correct because smog towers are structures designed as large scale air purifiers to reduce air pollution particles, and they are fitted with multiple layers of air filters which clean the air of pollutants as it passes through them, whereas then anti-smog gun is a cannon-like dust suppression machine that can reduce the pollution levels. The statement 2 is correct because a machine fixed inside the tower can remove nearly 80% of the particulate matter, that is PM 2.5 and PM 10, and can help to bring down pollution levels and spew fresh air out through the 4 outlet units. So that is the explanation for this question. I hope you've all understood the difference between a smog tower and a anti-smog gun, and what is the main function, how much percentage of air it can purify, how much percentage of pollutants this can absorb. So I hope you understood this. Let's go for the next question. In context of the National Biodiversity Mission, consider the following statements. Statement 1. It is one of the major missions identified under the Prime Minister's Science, Technology and Innovation Council, or the PMSTIAC, to ensure sustainable development. And 2. Under this mission, inventory and database of India's biodiversity will be mapped using digital tools. 3. It focuses on climate change, disaster risk reduction and bioeconomy. Choose the correct code. Option A 1 and 2 only, option B 2 only, option C 1 and 3 only, and option D 1, 2 and 3 only. So National Biodiversity Mission is something it's been present in the news consistently over the past few news cycles, and one among the major things is it is a major mission identified under the PMSTIAC to bring about sustainable development. So the first statement is right. You can eliminate, if the first statement is right, you can eliminate option B because it does not have the statement 1 in it. And under this mission, inventory and database of India's biodiversity will be mapped using digital tools seems to be logical. Let's go for 1 and 2 also. It focuses on climate change, disaster risk reduction, bioeconomy. Yes, all the 3 statements seem to be in line with National Biodiversity Mission. There does not seem to be anything illogical or irregular in this statement. So frankly, I would say I would go with the option D, which is 1, 2 and 3 only. Let's look at the explanation. The answer is D. So in October 2018, an outline of the mission and its objectives were presented to the PMSTIAC and the mission was approved. This mission proposed a national effort which aims to transform biodiversity science by linking it to the people's economic prosperity, and it aims to help India realize the UN SDG goals by using India's rich biodiversity to create solutions for challenges in agriculture, health and climate change. So that is the idea behind this mission. And the second statement, the National Biodiversity Mission proposed a 2-component program to bring biodiversity science to the forefront of the scientific and public engagement. The first component is titled the Cataloging and Mapping Life of India. The first component, which is the Cataloging and Mapping Life of India program, aims to build databases that can assess and monitor changes in biodiversity and ecosystem services and link biodiversity knowledge with the societal benefits. That is the second statement. For the third statement, the second component is divided into 6 programs which will focus on biodiversity with regard to ecosystem services, climate change and disaster risk reduction, agriculture, health, bioeconomy and capacity building and outreach. So know what is the National Biodiversity Mission, understand what are the 2 major components which comes under it and their immense focus and their major goals and objectives. So that is the explanation for this question. Let's go for the next question. Consider the following statements about the Digital India Land Records Modernization Program. 1. It is a centrally sponsored scheme. 2. Computerization of land record, survey, resurvey and computerization of registration are its 3 major components. 3. The Department of Land Resources is the implementing agency of the scheme. Select the correct answer using the given below code. Option A 1 and 2 only, option B 1 only, option B C 2 and 3 only and option D 3 only. So looking at this Digital India Land Records Modernization Program, the topic of land, if you are looking at, if you know, not if, when you learn about the polity syllabus for your civil services examination, you will understand that there is something known as the union list, the state list and the concurrent list. While looking at that, the powers and the authority with regards to the land is actually given to the state governments. Since this is given to the state governments themselves, the union government cannot interfere too much in the powers of the state list. So, taking that into account, I can say that the first statement is a centrally sponsored scheme to be right, because sponsorship means just a part of the payment is given by the central government, but it is not completely implemented by the central government. So, taking that into account, I can say the first statement is right. When the first statement is right, automatically only option A and B are right. That is option A 1 and 2 only, and option B 1 only is right. Option C and D get eliminated. So, now we just have to look at the second statement, whether it seems correct with regards to Digital India Land Records Modernization Program. Let us read the second statement. Computerization of land records, survey, resurvey and computerization of registration are its three major components. Obviously, Digital India Land Records Modernization Program is the key words, or the words themselves say they are talking about computerizing the land records. So, to keep looking at this, the second statement also seems to be highly practical and matching with the theme of the question. So, I would say that the option A, which is 1 and 2 only, seems to be right, and I would go for that answer. So, let us look at the explanation and see whether the answer is A. The answer is A. Two centrally sponsored schemes, that is computerization of land records CLR and strengthening of revenue administration and updating of land records SRA and ULR, were merged in 2008 into a modified scheme named Digital India Land Records Modernization Program, or the DILR-MP. The second statement is correct because it has three major components: computerization of land record, survey, resurvey and computerization of registration. The third statement is not correct because it is the state governments and the union territory administrations which will implement the program with financial and technical support from the Department of Land Resources and the Government of India, whereas the district will be taken as the unit of implementation, where all activities under the program will converge. So, it is not under the Department of Land Resources directly, it will be the state governments and the union territory administrations who will be implementing it with technical support from the Department of Land Services of the central government. So, that is the explanation for the third statement. I hope you all understood the explanation for this question. Let us go for the last question. Consider the following statements. 1. Cotton is a rabbi crop. 2. India is the world's largest producer of cotton. 3. Riga soil is ideal for growing cotton. Which of the above mentioned statements are correct? Option A 1 only, option B 2 and 3 only, option C 3 only and option D all of the above. So, this major demand of this question is about cotton, or it deals with the subject of agriculture. Again, we will be learning about the major crops, the major soils in which they grow, what are the major cropping seasons, everything we will be learning as part of our civil services preparation. And one thing you will be always learning in that is the cotton is a kharif crop, it is not a rabi crop. Rabi crop is something which is grown during the winter season, whereas the kharif crop is grown during the major monsoon season or the southwest monsoon duration, and cotton is majorly grown during the kharif season. So, taking that into account, I can say the first statement is absolutely wrong. Remove the first statement, you are left with just option B and C, that is 2 and 3 only. We managed to make it a 50-50 choice. Let us look at the second and third statement. Third statement automatically becomes right, that is Riga soil is ideal for growing cotton because it is present in both of them. Let us look at the second statement. India is the world's largest producer of cotton. No, India is not the world's largest producer of cotton, it is another country. That is also something we are well aware of. India is not the world's largest producer of cotton. So, taking that into account, I can say the second statement is also wrong. Remove the second statement, you are just left with one option, that is option C 3 only. Let us look at the explanation. The answer is for C, the statement 1 is not correct because cotton is a kharif crop which requires 6 to 8 months to mature, and it is a crop of the tropical and subtropical areas and requires uniformly high temperature varying between 21 degrees Celsius and 30 degrees Celsius, and the growth is actually retarded when the temperature falls below 20 degrees Celsius. The second statement is not correct because India has the largest area under cotton cultivation in the world, but worldwide it is the third largest producer after China and the United States. Currently, it is grown over 6% of the net sown area in India. So, India may have the largest area under production of cotton, but it is China and the USA which are in the number first and the second spot. The third statement is correct because Riga soil or black soil is also suitable for cotton cultivation, and because it is black in color, it has the necessary nutrients and all those stuff necessary for growing cotton ideally. So, that is the explanation for this question. I hope you all understood this. With this question, we have end this video. I hope you all have a good day. This is CB Joy signing off. Thank you.